Today I saw a father calmly leading his son as if he were blind. Why? The child had had his head buried in a book. What other examples of patience and good parenting have you seen recently? My husband used to stop by Home Depot and collect the cardboard boxes that refrigerators and washing machines came in and build elaborate houses, airplanes, castles, race cars and tunnels for our kids. He would take hours making these things for them. Then sit and watch them play in them until they fell apart just to do it all over again. I found it adorable. I was on the subway the other day and there was a dad next to me that was letting his little girl draw on his arm with a pen. She was saying things like, "And this is you and mommy. And I'm gonna draw my flowers here. And this is grandma's house. And he's going a hug. And did you draw grandpa? And where's the puppy?" She had covered his forearm entirely in doodles. It was adorable. Close bracket. A long time ago, while on vacation, my cousin dropped a giant lollipop and was rather upset about it. While trying to comfort him, I saw a father give his daughter a similar giant lollipop and the girl walked over and handed my cousin the lollipop. It was really adorable. I was at a grocery store before a fireworks show getting snacks for a picnic. A lot of other people were doing the same. As I contemplated hummus beside a man, his daughter ran up to him with a pack of bubbles and was all pleased. The dad says, "I don't know. Honey. I don't know if everyone at the fireworks show wants to see bubbles." Without looking up I say, "Oh. I don't know. I think I'd like to see some bubbles." The dad just slowly turns to look at me with this huge grin on his face. And says, "Well, I guess we're getting bubbles. Then. Best dad ever." A guy took his daughter to the pool and was just watching. She stopped swimming for whatever reason and she was dripping wet. And then she said something and he gave her a big hug and she went back in the water all giggly and happy. It was cute how not a single F was given about getting his clothes wet. Putting a smile on that girl's face was more important. Was at an IHOP with a friend of mine about a month ago. They sat us next to a huge family. 3 tables pushed together with numerous kids and only one adult, a dad. The kids ranged in ages from what looked to be 3 all the way up to preteen. They were the most well-behaved kids I'd ever seen. Please and thank you and passing condiments about. One of the younger kids was even very patiently cutting up pancakes for the youngest of the group. When they left, there was not a single piece of trash on the floor. We just stared at them in amazement. I would have complimented the dad but they took a different path out of the restaurant that didn't bring them near me. Sitting in an airport recently that happened to have a piano in the corner with a notice on it saying "Go ahead and play it." I saw a woman with a screaming child at a store leave her cart, take the child to the car, and then come back with a nice, well-behaved child. Nothing irks me more than when children scream and their parents ignore them. Last week, I was waiting at a car dealership while my vehicle was getting worked on and there was a mother and her daughter taking turns reading Harry Potter to each other out loud. The mother had to pause several times while her daughter explained the characters to her, even though she definitely knew it all already. But the calm way she handled it was just amazing and so different from what you usually see. I was walking home after going to a small market close to my house and on the way back I saw chalk on the sidewalk. Things like "Hopscotch and start running here. Keep it up. Faster. Finish line." I of course did them. 100 yards later I come up to a little girl, 6ish, and either her mother or elder sister, 18-25. The girl very excitedly asked me if I partook in the chalk hopscotch and run. I answered I did with a smile and I walked the rest of the way home with the biggest damn smile. While snowboarding in Japan, my GF kept falling and getting frustrated. Upon seeing this, a young Japanese boy said something his father, and then the father motioned him toward us. The boy came to us, demonstrated how to properly place your feet on a snowboard, and then, smiling, walked back to his father. Probably the most polite 7 years old I have ever met, and most likely the product of a wonderful father. A couple weeks ago on 4th of July I was at a family friend's house. These people were extremely devout Catholics. However, when the subject of the two newlywed women in their family came up and a young child asked, wait, isn't it supposed to be a man and a woman? Not a woman and a woman. The grandmother looked at him, smiled, and said, live and let live, honey. People are supposed to marry who they love and it doesn't matter if they're a girl or a boy. Double quote. I was in Party Source the other day. It's a local liquor megamart. And I was passing all the party supplies aisles to get to the good stuff, the liquor. As I passed the aisle with all of the traditional pink little girly party stuff, there was a group of absolutely huge, really rough looking black guys. Every one of them was at least 6 feet tall and could probably bench press me one-handed. And most of them were covered in tattoos. One of them had his daughter with him. Every single one of those big, tough, badass guys was helping this little girl pick out the best tiara. I later saw them walking out of the store, and the little girl was wearing her tiara and a pink feather boa. I see this couple at work every now and then. They look a bit old to have children, think 45, and the children are maybe 4-5. While they are waiting room they have great discussions with their kids. They talk to their kid as if they were adults, while keeping it very tasteful. I find it very refreshing. Too often do I see parents dumbing down their conversation with children. I remember people doing that with me when I was a kid and it used to annoy me quite a bit. Lots of kids are much smarter than most people believe. Small. At work I listened to a boy excitedly talking about all the superhero action figures. Who had done what kind of powers they had, and who was an enemy of who. The mother engaged him in the conversation, asking questions and acting surprised by what the boy said. They spent a long time with the action figures and it was nice. A lot of parents are like, you have 3 seconds, Tommy. And the kid is tearfully hurriedly picking out his toy like it's a punishment instead of a reward. A couple years ago, I was hitchhiking across the country with a friend and we found ourselves in downtown Calgary. There was a homeless man taking up a good chunk of one of the benches at the bus stop and a young couple came up with their daughter, who looked to be around 7 or 8. They sat right beside him on the bench and started up a conversation. The girl looked uneasy at first, but I could see that their conversation was going well. It may not seem like a huge deal, but I thought it was great parenting. Recognizing that there are people less fortunate, but still deserving of attention and decency. It was great to see parents going out of their way to show others respect in front of their children in a situation where most parents may protect their children from the dangers of the homeless. A mother brings her son into the pet store that I work at every single day. She is extremely nice. And her son is just a regular 10-year-old boy with a fascination of animals. When he was holding a bunny, I asked her why she agrees to bring him in every day, when they never purchase anything, minus hamster food once a month, and she said as soon as he wakes up, he begs to come into the pet store all morning until she brings him in after lunch. He likes seeing the animals, and talking to whoever is working. He has a vast knowledge of many animals. And although it can get repetitive and boring, his mother never gets angry, forces him to leave, or is rude with him. TLDR, mother brings her son into my pet store every single day because he loves animals. My father used to keep a pack of markers next to his bed so on weekend mornings when we would wake up and crawl in bed with him we could entertain ourselves by giving him tattoos while he caught up on sleep. He'd snooze away, he's a farmer, it was a rarity. And let us draw all over his back, legs, arms, stomach. Then, when we finally covered him, he'd wake up, walk to the mirror and admire all of our markings with pride. Honestly, anytime I see a parent watching their kid out in public or even holding their hand to cross a street, I mentally +1 them for not using one of those harness leash things. Dunno. Maybe they're useful, but that's gotta be embarrassing for the kid if nothing else. I had a parent swing by my classroom today and ask if her daughter could meet up with me before the school year started. They moved and changed schools. She realized her daughter needed reassurance from me, her previous teacher, that the new school was going to be a positive experience. That struck a chord with me. She realized change can be frightening and difficult for children and was trying to ease the transition for her daughter. I wouldn't say that's good parenting. It's awesome that he's into reading and all. But when I did this, my parents would have reprimanded me for not being observant of what's going around me, and it's true. I learned more when I put my book down and just looked around. I was at a restaurant and a table had 4 big strong men. And a little baby. So new. It must have been less than a month old. Somebody was holding the baby but it started fussing. So the father took it and it calmed down right away. You just know that father put the time into the baby getting to know him. His warmth. His scent. His voice. To feel safe with him. Usually you only see this with mothers. I was buying a car about 50 miles outside of my city. And the surrounding counties tend to be a little rural, to say the least. So I stop at a McDonald's on the way home to shove some calories in my face. When in walks a good old boy and his daughter. The dad's appearance was basically redneck Randall. Sleeveless NASCAR shirt and all. And his daughter was very overweight. So being an asshole. The gears in my brain start churning out hate and condescension towards the stereotype I had immediately turned this man into. Then I see them both examine a calorie chart on the counter. The dad is basically helping his daughter break down how many calories she can have. And turning it into a sort of game where she has to add and subtract and keep the number in a certain range. My god. I spent the next 45 minutes in my car feeling like such a piece of shit. I was at a little kid's birthday party recently and they had a small ball pit in the room. 1. Not very nice. Mother angrily told her young son he couldn't go into it. But had to sit outside of it and only touch. There was another mother and son nearby also playing in it. When she saw that the first little boy couldn't play in the balls, she asked her son to sit outside of it also and play that way. I thought it was just the sweetest, most thoughtful thing ever. I only hope I can be that thoughtful with my own daughter. Vice President Biden came and gave a speech at my college. And there was a mom sitting behind me with her son. She was asking him questions about politics. And he, in turn, asked his own. The kid seemed to be about 8 years old. She explained that Biden was a Democrat. And that there is another party called Republicans. The boy turned to her and asked, "Which one is right?" The woman responded, "That's not for me to tell you. You have to figure that out on your own." I gave that mom a standing ovation in my head for not pushing her own political opinions on her child one way or another. This will probably get buried, but a couple years ago I worked at Subway and a dad came in with a clearly mentally handicapped son. They walked up to the counter and the dad made sure we weren't busy before asking his son something along the lines of, "You ready, big guy?" He then waited very patiently as his son ordered the entire sandwich by himself and only stepped in to help him pronounce a few words he had trouble getting out. When the son finished his order, the dad said, "Great job, buddy," and gave him a high five. I was nearly in tears checking out. Thinking if I have a disabled son, that's the kind of dad I want to be. If my manager wasn't such a bee, I would have given them that sandwich for free. TLDR, special kids can eat fresh too. I was at a restaurant eating lunch on the patio with some friends. When I was done, I took all the trash to throw it away inside. My hands were full, and when I arrived at the door, a child probably around 4 opens it and said, "I'm gonna be a gentleman," with a huge smile on his face. Pretty much the cutest faith in humanity restored. One day on the U-Bahn I saw a man with 3 kids. One was strapped to his chest and the other 2 were probably 3 and 5. He was so calm, collected and cool. Spoke calmly to them. Was telling them a story. Doing voices. Acting goofy. I didn't understand what he was saying because it was in German, but it really touched my heart. Those kids could have been bored out of their minds having to sit on a train surrounded by a bunch of strangers, yet he kept them occupied with what I assume was an awesome made-up story. One of my co-workers leaves her daughter with her ex-husband when she works nights. It's a good arrangement. She gets free babysitting and he gets more time with his kid. Ex-husband's new girlfriend moved in with him. She didn't like having the kid around. So she started dropping hints about not having her over so often. When that didn't work, she started being mean to the kid, trying to make it so she wouldn't want to come over. When the ex found out about this, he immediately kicked the girlfriend out. This is a man who has his priorities in order. Our new neighbor tends to come off a bit douchy to adults, and I kept wondering why I tolerate him despite him having said something offensive to me and picking little verbal fights with people, and possibly making shop to impress people. When his kids are with him, everything is different. They are very cool kids who obviously adore him, and he is a super involved dad. He talks glowingly of changing their diapers when they were small, taking them on road trips. All the normal stuff a dad does. But this guy's face is shining when he tells you some little thing about his kids. He is not trying to impress anyone, and he is not offensive anymore. His love for them is filling up the room. They are happy, smart, sweet kids. He brings his kids a lot of places. So hopefully he will be full-time good dad and retire the douche that's there when the kids aren't. I work at a restaurant, and a few weeks ago I see a guy walk into our establishment with a crown on his head and a tutu. His daughter was basically wearing the same thing. They proceeded to share a sandwich together and have a tea party during a busy dinner shift, completely ignoring the laughs and stares of everyone else. I have a 7-month-old daughter, and I hope to be just like this guy one day. I was on a plane sitting next to a father and his young daughter. Once the plane took off, she immediately started crying, and without missing a beat, the father took out his iPod and started playing episodes of Yo Gabba Gabba. I once on the subway and saw dad with his young son. The little guy was probably about 4, and he was singing a little song under his breath about whatever kids sing about. Mostly stream of consciousness, rambling about whatever he saw. The dad was kind of head bobbing along and just listening. Cool dad. My daughter loves to paint her nails. My husband selflessly allows her to paint his nails all shades of pink and glitter just to make her happy. Since she wants to show off her work, I painted daddy's nails. He leaves it on so she can share. He is the best dad. I was in Central Park, and in front of me was a little boy maybe 5 or 6 years old teaching his grandpa and grandma how to throw a football. The little boy was half Asian, half white, and his grandparents were Asian and most likely not from America. The kid was throwing perfect spirals, while the grandpa was throwing it all over the place, really awfully. After his grandpa would throw it, the little boy would run over and go no, like this grandpa, and make the motion with his arm of how to throw the football. It was the cutest thing I've ever seen. Grandparenting. Doing it so right. I was in Joann Fabrics yesterday, and there was a mother and her about 2-3-year-old daughter. Her daughter was decked out in a little Wonder Woman costume, like Halloween night level costume, with a belt and headband and all. Every time they would need to move to a different part of the store, the mom leaned down to her daughter's level and said something along the lines of, "Quick Wonder Woman. There's a crisis on the yarn aisle. They need your help," and then they both fake flew together away into another part of the store. Sound effects and all. Not only was it an amazing act of parenting to see a mother encouraging fun and imagination, but it was refreshing to see a little girl idolizing someone strong and independent like Wonder Woman instead of some princess. I was at 7-Eleven while waiting for the Slurpee machine. The son asked his father if he could have the big gulp size. He gladly said, "Of course you can. But if you can't finish it, then you can't have size again." The son thought about it and said never mind, knowing that there is no way in hell he can drink that much. That's a smart dad. I was getting on a bus, and a little girl and her mother were sitting up by the front. As I got on, the little girl proudly exclaimed, "And his shirt is blue." Her mother affirmed her that yes, my shirt was indeed blue. The little girl then proceeded to point and call out the color of everybody's shirt. It was obvious she was just beginning to learn to identify colors and was very excited about it. It was pretty cute.